Hi, and welcome to my presentation of my literature review titled, Can You Improve Student Retention Using Game-Based Technology? My full research question is as follows. To what extent does research show that engaging middle school students in game-based technology helps them to increase their retention? The rationale for this question for me stems from three main points, but again, a lot of things went into forming that question for me, but these are the three main points. One is relevancy to my current position. I'm currently a fifth grade math teacher at Hastings Middle School, and so obviously the fact that it's math students and the fact that it's middle school students means a lot to me as I want to try and grow my teaching in particular in that area. Also, the fact that we are in the hybrid model right now and ended last year in the distance learning model. I know the amount of technology that I'm forced to put into my kids' hands, and I really want to make sure that I am doing so purposefully and I'm not just doing it to say that I did it. So I want to make sure that I'm being purposeful and intentional in the technology that I'm using. And lastly, the increased availability of game-based technologies that are out there. I just know that that is the way things are heading, and because we've essentially become a one-to-one device school with our Chromebooks, that teachers are more and more going to look towards finding engaging games and finding things to put in their students' hands. And I want to see if it's fully valuable for those students to get those game-based technologies in their hands, and is it actually going to help their learning? All right, so I used 5 sources, just like everyone else, for this piece, for this literary review. And the first source is as follows here. It is called Gamification and Assessment, Do Points Affect Test Performance? And it actually ties together with my second source. They're very similar in a sense that they are both formed on the students or the participants' ability to answer the questions and answer the questions correctly and answer the questions quickly. More points were awarded the quicker you would answer those questions. The intention and the connection to my research is that students will become more engaged and motivated to try to learn, to perform well, and increase their point totals so that they could have a higher standing in the leaderboard and all those kinds of situations. And the insights that I gained from that is that there really was no academic benefit, but the students were definitely more engaged in their learning. And that is the same case for source number 2, which used the platform Kahoot, which is something that I used in my class quite a bit. But the same connections and same basic premise of the fact that I am trying to engage my students in learning. I usually do a Kahoot right before we take a test, so trying to motivate them to learn that information that is being put into that Kahoot, which will eventually pay off in the long run testing-wise. Now, what they did find in both of these is that there was a limited amount of increase in actual test scores because of this, but one of them was actually scoring on the test, so I think that a lot of the students were answering quicker rather than answering more accurately. And in the second case, this Kahoot, the students did show some improvement academically on the post-test, but again, were more interested and more engaged because of the exit survey they gave. They were much more likely to study because there was a Kahoot attached to it. So the engagement and motivation increased immensely, but the accuracy only increased a little bit. All right, source 3 was kind of a different type of study. It was a qualitative study versus a quantitative like the other two were. And in this case, the qualitative study was judging whether students would be motivated to earn badges and rewards for not only academic achievement, but also for behavioral recognitions and behavioral achievements. So the researchers were looking not only for rewarding these students when they did something correct in the geometry unit that they were working on and maybe mastering area or mastering perimeters, things like that, but they were also saying, did they raise their hand to participate, and give them an award for raising their hand, give them a reward for being engaged in the class or for helping a classmate out, things like that. And so what they said they noticed in this, and the takeaways from this for me, was that the students, the classroom behaviors decreased. The students were much more engaged than they had been before. And again, this is based off of the response of the teacher in the classroom. And they said that the academic piece, again, improved slightly because of that better classroom management and better classroom behaviors. So the connection for me, again, is not necessarily did the achievement and retention show a huge amount of growth, but the fact that the students were more engaged and more motivated to be thinking of classroom routines and classroom behaviors will increase in the long run their ability to retain that information. Now the last two sources, again, for me are very much tied together, and they are in a situation, this first one is actually a mixed method research study that talks about the effects of gamification methodology on student achievement and attitudes towards mathematics. So again, this was a study that put an actual piece of software in front of these students, and much like Prodigy does, puts mathematics standards-based questions in front of these students and requires them to answer those questions, allows them to level up and do things like that to be successful on their standards. And again, very much like the previous three sources, the teacher did not notice a huge growth in the academic piece, but definitely noticed an increased amount of engagement and motivation. The students were practicing more practice problems than they did ever before in their math class. So that was fantastic. And source 5 was very much the same way. It was a situation in which they were awarding badges, awarding level up opportunities for students for answering math questions correctly. And again, the connection is obviously the technology, the fact that it is math, the fact that these students are looking to become engaged and hopefully improve their retention. So very connected to what I was looking for there. Here is my list of entire list of references, and that does it for my presentation. Thank you very much.